right, here we go into the lesson on recording instruments. So we're going to start with guitar, but this is the same process whether you're recording a guitar, a bass, a vocal, a keyboard, any kind of real instrument basically. So what you're going to do is you're going to open up the dub beat from the last lesson and save as. So we're going to say File, Save As, and we're going to call it Instrument Recording. So I'm going to go in there. Okay, dub beat instrument recording. I'm going to put that in a new folder. Save it as a folder. Save audio files. Make sure you check that audio files tab so that if you move this around to a new hard drive or take it anywhere to work on it somewhere, all the audio files go with it. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is to check our digital audio settings. So we want to make sure, first of all, that we go to Logic Pro, Settings, Audio, and that when we're recording audio, we want to be on the lowest buffer rate that our DAW is going to allow us. Okay, I'm going to try 64. I'm on the Universal Audio Thunderbolt interface, and there's some added bonus features for recording instruments with that interface. But you're probably on a Scarlett or an Audient, and that does not have its own separate mixer so that you can record with no latency. But there might be a DAW versus direct input knob like on the Audient, or a direct input switch on the Scarlett. So you can engage that and hear the direct sound. The challenge with that is then you don't hear the full process sound from the amps that we're going to look at. So we're going to go to 64 buffer. Now 1024 is for mixing, and that means that your DAW is going to stash more information in your buffer on your computer, but it's slower to access it. This means you're going to stash less information in the buffer on your computer, but it can access it quicker. And what that does is that actually lowers the possibility of latency. So right now I'm at 28 milliseconds, which is kind of a lot. But if you go to 2024, you're way up to 72 milliseconds. Okay, so we'll try 64, and we're going to leave all that the way it is. And we're going to say apply and close this. Now, I've already put some plugins on here. So part of the problem is that there's plugins, and that is going to cause latency. So what you could do is I'm going to go Command 2, open the mixer, and I'm going to show you this trick. You click the Record tab here, or menu, sorry, and you say Low Latency Monitoring Mode. All right, so that's one way that you can reduce the latency within your recording. Low Latency Monitoring Mode. Okay, now let's look at overlapping audio settings while we're in here. So we can do similar settings like we did with MIDI. So we can create take folders with the cycle off and on. We can make new tracks, track alternatives. We'll go through some of these features, okay? We'll leave the take folders on for now. Let's go back to the arrange window, Command 1, and we're gonna Command Option N, new track. So one way you could do this is you could create an audio track and build your channel from scratch. Or you can just go to guitar or bass and build your channel from here. Open library, and from this checkbox, and then you could pick a patch. So we're going to do that. We're going to work with the library. All right, depending on where you're plugged in, I'm plugged in my vocal mic for the tutorials in input 1, so my guitar is plugged into input 2. So you want to make sure you're on the correct input. Most of the basic 1 and 2 channel interfaces, the guitar will be one or the other. the voice input and the guitar input will be different inputs. Some you can plug the guitar into either one. So keep that in mind. Make sure that your input is the same as your input on your interface. Outputs 1 and 2. Okay, now right here you can check input monitoring. And this is what it's going to do. It's going to create a guitar track with input monitor on. That means you're going to hear the through. The sound is going to come through your interface, through this track, and back out the headphones. Okay? So let's look at that even further. I'm going to control click this little icon, go to guitar, and choose a guitar icon. Okay? Just purely aesthetic. That's okay. And now over here in the library, we told it to open the library. So we can choose what kind of electric guitar or bass we want to record. Clean guitar. I'll start with a clean. And there's all of these settings. Look at all these settings for guitar. So cool. So amazing tweed. It's going to sound like this. And I've already set the input level, but this is where you're going to want to set the input level for your device. You're going to be looking and turning up the gain on your interface. Okay. Right now you're seeing on channel 1 my voice. Here's channel 2. That level is my guitar. Okay. I'm coming in channel 2 here. This is the UA mixer. The cool thing about this is I can put a guitar amp in here, monitor off of here, and have 0 latency. It's a great feature, but I've muted this through this mixer so that we can just hear logic. Okay, so it's just like your setup. So here's the guitar. All right, so now if I record enable this, I have a pretty good level actually. It's a little hot, so I'm going to turn down the gain on my interface. For me, when I turn the gain down on the actual interface, it's going to reflect in the mixer here. You're seeing a representation of the gain being adjusted. It's just as if I am actually turning the knob on the interface. So I want to be at minus 12-ish. But I don't mind being a little hotter for guitar. Get a little better tone that way, I think, maybe. So let's reset this level. This level is your recording level, or your peak level. Minus 12, or minus 8, minus 7.6. Still pretty safe. So I'm going in a little hot, not quite minus 12, but it's okay. All right. So now make sure that you can hear yourself pretty good in your headphones by adjusting your monitor level. Okay, so what you might be noticing is that we've chosen this amp, and you can see a whole channel strip here. We have a noise gate. I'm going to turn that off. We have a pedal board. It's got a tube burner on here that's not even on yet, and an echo that's not even on. So if I turn that on, you can hear that. And if I turn this on, you can hear that. Okay. Close that, leave those off. Here is the amp. So in the amps, what I want you to do is experiment with some of the amps, because you can actually come in and change the amps here by going through this way. Okay, and what that's doing is it's just taking you through all of these preset amp settings. So as you could just click in here and try some of these too. But it's a nice quick way to just switch through them with these buttons here. Okay, so now you can use these amps on all kinds of stuff, by the way. You can load an amp just by coming into the plugins, amps and pedals, amp designer. And you could put that on a keyboard, on a vocal, on anything. Kind of a fun way to work with the amp plugin is to try it on something that's not a guitar. Okay, so here you've got gain, bass, mid, treble, reverb on or off, amount of reverb, effects on or off, which is going to be tremolo. Tremolo or vibe on this one. It's kind of nice. Presence and master. Okay. If you're familiar with guitar, you know what all these things do. The bottom line is that if your master's up and your gain is down, you got a clean sound. If you turn your master down and your gain up, you get more of a dirty sound. Okay, so let's stay with the clean sound. You can also adjust the final output of this track, but it's not going to affect the recorded level. It's only going to affect the processed level. So be careful of that. Watch out for tricking yourself that you think you're adjusting the recording level. You're not. That only happens at the preamp. Okay, I'm going to pull the presence down. I'm going to turn the tremolo on. See what that sounds like. Cool. What's neat here is you can sync your tremolo with your tempo of your track. You can't do that with a regular amp. You can also have it on free. Tremolo is a great effect. It's really fun. Okay. Reverb. You can turn this off. Leave it on. Turn up the reverb. Pretty springy. That's nice. Okay. Experiment with the treble, bass, and mids and see what kind of tones you can get. Okay, so play with the amps. Now, one of the cool things about this amp modeler is you can actually adjust, when you come over here and hover on this part, you can adjust the distance and the placement of the mic from the center out to the outside and further back. How fun is that? You can also change the mic. There's a RE20. Here's a good old 57. Okay, over here, I think this compressor's hitting a little hard. Let's open it and see what it's doing. Yeah, not really. I'm going to turn it off, though. Okay. So you can change the mics. You can go to a Royer 121. I think right now that 57 is actually sounding pretty good. And I'm going to adjust the depth of the tremolo down. There we go. Cool. Check this out. You can change just the cabinet. And that will change the sound quite a bit. So you can experiment with these guys here. Let's try a British 212. That's pretty nice. So experiment with the cabinets, and then you can change just the head and keep the cabinet too. Right? Let's see, British Blues amp. Yeah, I liked what we had before. Let's go back to the large tweed. That one's pretty nice. Model customized. So you can change all these models in here too. That's pretty wild. British Blues combo. Oh. Large tweed. Interesting. These are like the same features here. Okay, so you can change the amp, the cabinet, the mic, and then your final output level. Okay. And you can move around the mic. So experiment with all of that. So now I've taken off. Let's see what the EQ is doing. I'm going to take that off too. I'm curious what it sounds like. Just the pedal board and the amp. That's fine. Okay, so now you've got the basics of that going on. Now there's all these different clean, crunch, distorted guitars, experimental guitars, and then all these bass settings. So there's just a myriad of settings here. It's the same thing as coming into settings, legacy, logic, electric guitar. Okay. The difference here is it gives you like a full preset kind of a tone rather than choosing, well, it gives you these settings basically rather than going through clean guitar first. Okay. So this just gives you another category. All right. So if we were to go to the next part, we want to check our recording settings now. So let's go to, oops, not about. We want to go to settings, recording. Okay, I want to make sure I'm recording a wave and that I'm on 24-bit recording. And you can set the way that these operate. So right now with audio, I want to create take folders. Okay, we're going to start there. Audio, we're at 64. We already checked that. And then right here, when you go to recording, you can go recording project settings. Okay, right here you can say count in 1 bar, 2 bars, however much you need. I'm going to give myself 2 bars, and you can go right here to audio, and you can check your sample rate. Now, this project came at 44.1, the original dub beat template that was that we started with for the MIDI stuff. So we can't change it now. But when you go to create your own projects from scratch, you can choose. And if I'm doing not just a practice or a lesson, like a real project, I'm always at 48 here. Okay? Cool. So that's all our settings. And we are looking good. And we're ready to move on to the next part with recording techniques. So now what we're going to do is record in a regular take and see what happens there. Let's see. I think I'm going to start the guitar 2 bars in. Okay. So if I take record enable off, I can input monitor and play along and come up with a part. All right, so the first thing I'm going to focus on is lowering all of these tracks except for the guitar track. Option click that so I can hear what I'm playing better over the track. That's a little better. These are a little hot still. So you want to create a headphone mix for your artist. In this case, it's me, but you might be teamed up with somebody and recording a guitarist. And they need to be able to hear themselves, so you create a nice level for them. Probably the pads could come down too on this one and the strings. That sounds good. I'm going to go back over here. And you know what? I kind of like starting the guitar here. All right. So I'm going to cycle up this section and put some guitar here at bar 13. That's my arrangement. Now, the chords that we played before were D minor and G. So I'm just doing D minor bar chord and a G bar chord. You could do a triad. A lot of different ways to play this, and as a guitar player, I could go into that really deeply, but I won't. What I'm going to focus on is showing you the techniques for recording. Okay, so first thing is we set up a 2-bar count in. So if we hit record, it's going to give us 2 bars before we start recording. All right, record enable, hit record. Okay, so we just recorded one take, one pass, and then I stopped it with the space bar. Okay, so R to record, space bar to stop. Command Z that. Now it's kind of boring to match the piano part, so I'm going to do something more rhythmically, and I'm going to do 2 takes in a row and create take folders. Okay, so now we've recorded a few takes. I'm going to unrecord enable, take the input monitor off just so I can focus on this stuff. And I'm also going to save, Command S. Now I'm going to Option Control. Oh, you know what? I'll click that track and press Z. And look at that. So it's going to zoom me into this track or the selected region. Cool? So now we can go in there and start to swipe comp. Okay, I didn't like that ending, but the first part was pretty cool. What's this one sound like? I like that ending better, but I like the first half of this one better. So I'm going to swipe in the first part of take 4 and keep the end of take 3. Here's the takes here. All right, I like that. I don't even have to listen to the other takes because I like that comp. And notice that what happens up here is this is a comp. This track is showing you the composite of all your selected areas down here. So let's say I played this part better. Let's see what that sounds like. See, that doesn't work, does it? What if this part's better? It's not bad. Okay, so I've got these 2 parts to take 3, these 2 parts to take 4, and this is showing me the composite of all of that. So this little piece is showing here, this piece is showing here, this piece is showing here, this piece is showing here. So that when I close that, you're seeing the composite of all the takes, hence the name comp. Okay, so at this point, I can leave all those and decide later if I want to change it, or I can commit. Click this A and say flatten, and it's going to give me a flattened version of the different takes. So here's the different parts. Here's one interesting thing you can do. You can option C, and you could color each one of these little regions differently so that when you flatten, you can see your different takes that you've popped in there. Okay? Not necessary, but it's one way that you can help stay organized. So I'm going to Command Z that. I don't necessarily need to do that. I still, Command Z, don't need the colors. Boom. Okay, what I'm going to do instead of flatten is I'm going to flatten and merge. And that is going to create one region out of all of that. Now I could press Z again. Oh, no. I can hold Command Control. You know, it never likes to come out of Z that well. So I'm going to Command Arrow back to normal view. Okay, it's interesting. You press Z and it goes into that region. Press Z, it goes out again. But if you work in there for a while, it doesn't always go back out right. Interesting. Okay, so it looks like I did it all in one take. And it's all one region. Okay, so now if I wanted to, I could go into my text tool and be very organized and call it rhythm or guitar rhythm. Rather than it being called comp. Okay, and now I can go back in here to the pointer and I'm back in my regular tool. So that text tool is great. You can name your regions and then you know what parts that you've put down. So that's one way to do it. We just did take folders and swipe comped to the best part. Okay. So now let's say I want to punch in and fix something. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to go to custom and open up this big display. I want to see this big display pretty much always. Okay, that just helps me. It gives me more information of beats, all the playhead positions, bars, beats, and divisions. Okay, so now we're going to move into other ways to record and tips and tricks on that. So now that we've looked at recording a take after getting all set up with your amp and everything, and copying your take folders and merging that, what if you want to punch in? So there's a bunch of ways to do this. One way to do it is you can control click the record button and allow quick punch in, and that'll let you punch on the fly. Now that's kind of hard to do because if you're recording yourself, but if you're recording someone else, it's great. So if you allow quick punch in, make sure that's checked. Your record enabled, got your input monitor on. Okay, you can hit play and then just punch in anywhere. The problem is that you can't really punch in and out and punch yourself in. So you have to go back through now and swipe these parts in and try to get it clean. See, it's kind of not the best option, right? So let's undo that. And rather than punch on the fly, which is what I like to do a lot when I'm recording someone else, I prefer to do that in real time, okay? You can actually set up a feature here. We're going to control click, customize, and we're going to put in auto punch. See that? Now what's funny here with Logic is you select it and there's no way to say okay. There's a revert button, but there's no okay. Let's do it. You can save it as a default though. So let's do that. Cool. Still, there's no way to close this and say okay. So you just click in the gray anywhere. And now you have this fun little button for auto punch. Okay. Now I'm going to click this region, press Z, close the library so I got a little more space. Command arrow right. I'm going to find where I want to punch in. And I'm going to draw right here underneath the cycle region. This little red area is where it's going to record. Okay, see it right here? So now I'm in cycle region still, but if I press R, it's only going to record that section. All right, so you notice I didn't make it long enough. So I'm going to Command Z that, press Z, and try to make it longer. So I'm going to drag this end of it out to here. Option Control click for the magnifying glass, back out. R for record. And it just recorded that section. Now the funny part is I need to go in and do another section. So I'm going to Z. And it's right here. So I'm going to drag in auto punch to here. Click there. Now I don't need the count in at this point, because it's going to start at the top of the cycle. So let's just start there. Okay, let's see what that sounds like. It just punched in that little section. There we go. That's auto punch for you. So now you can turn that off and go back to your regular recording settings. We can again flatten and merge, but what I want to do before I even do that is I'm going to zoom in. So that's Option Control. I'm going to check this punch out. Turn off the cycle. Play. That's good. Maybe I want to keep these funky little rhythms in here first. Cool. So you want to check your swipe comps, make sure they're clean before you flatten and merge. Flatten and merge. Now it's all one take again. Command U to cycle up the selected region here.